the power of mentoring here in South Florida and having three affiliates together today. And this is what it's all about. Dr. Bush talked about mentoring his family with her littles. I'll start with you, Yvette, then I'll go to Edward. As we think about what's happening in our country right now with the racial tensions, and even with what we've seen on TV with police brutality, we got two law enforcement officers with us who clearly are seasoned. We're going to give them a chance to talk about it. But why is Big Brothers Big Sisters so important, especially in the space of social justice, event?
Right. Well, Big Brothers Big Sisters has an important role because mentoring is all about the relationships, and the relationships are key right now. They're going to bring people together for different ages, different races, different backgrounds in a way that changes, like you can hear both of them for the better, the mentors and the kids. So that's needed now more than ever, just to build those connections and just lean into creating those relationships and bridging any of those gaps.
Incredible. And having big sisters like Auntie here, because I can I call you Auntie as well, Delta, please. Can I call you Auntie?
You got it.
So having big sisters like Dr. Bush just makes your job so much more rewarding as well. Edward, let's talk about the great things taking place at Big Brothers Big Sisters Broward in the space of social justice and working with law enforcement as well. Edward.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it's pivotal that Big Brothers Big Sisters of America launched years ago the Big Sin Blue program and Big Sin badges. Very especially because it's tackling a need that is becoming more relevant today with all the things that have been very sad. And in Broward, we just started with the Big Sin Blue program this year. We have two police departments working with us. That's the Coconut Creek Police Department, who the chief of police happens to have been a little brother himself. And then we have also the Hollywood Police Department. And it's worked great. We basically have 21 matches out of the two programs, and mostly they're site-based. But the important thing to note here is that um, the schools that are participating with the matching, because most of these policemen are matched in the school-based program, the schools are taking big advantage of this opportunity in making sure that these kids are matched. They're actually making the matching recommendations, which is something that we are the ones who are supposed to be on top of, but they're the ones proactively doing it themselves. They're picking the kids that they feel they will benefit the most because of their needs, because of whatever is that they're going through in their lives, that they may be going in the wrong way, but also because of the perception that they have of the police. What we find in our youth is that the more the kid starts deviating from the right path, the more the kids try to avoid the police and tries to keep it in a distance. So this is a wonderful program, and I think it's the most effective intervention tool to tackle this problem. I mean, not problem.
Absolutely, Edward. And it's so well stated. And he's thinking kudos to all the law enforcement personnel in Palm Beach, Martin counties, like Dr. Bush, and certainly those in Broward, as Edward mentioned, Coconut Creek and Hollywood, and certainly all the law enforcement entities in Miami-Dade County. We're in this together. Mentoring is all about family. And it is so refreshing to have the three affiliates as well as law enforcement representatives. And so I got to go back to you, Nellie. Again, as a Black woman and seeing police, but for both of you, Dr. Bush, I have the same question for you as Black women and seeing the police brutality in living color, literally. What goes through your mind as a law enforcement professional?
Well, for me, it's very sad to see because I feel like as a law enforcement officer, you wear many hats in the community. You're the counselor, you're the peacemaker, you're the one that basically comes in with, and everyone's looking to you to have the answers. And to me, we said that we would protect and serve. And I think the greatest a position you can ever hold is to serve your community. And so just knowing the amount of training we go through, what was taught in the academy, just working in a community, how could you not fall in love with the people that you work with? You drive around, you stop at the stores and speak to the people. It becomes your family. I feel more that Miami Gardens is a family to me than the city that I actually work in. So when I see that, it's very hurtful because I know there's a lot of great officers that work so hard, that goes out of their way to do a lot of things that people don't even recognize or realize that happens, that don't even want to go be in front of the camera because they're doing it from their heart. And so when you see these things, it does not feel good, but it is a drive to keep pushing. It is a drive to show that there are those here that are here to help, to love on the community, to understand our position can impact the lives of someone forever. You meet people at the worst days sometimes of their life, but you can either leave a good impression or a bad. You know, there's times where I've arrested people, but by the time we got to the jail, we've had a full-blown conversation on the way there because they're human beings. And I always say, if it wasn't for God, you know, and my mom being there and family being there, I could have been on the other side. And so I just have learned to show compassion, to show love. And so when you see those things, it does not feel good, you know, but for me, it is a drive to keep pushing, to let people know, no, there are those of us who are here who want to do the right thing, who love our community, that want to serve and be the light in our community.
So well stated. And thank you for that. Humanity. Now, Dr. Bush, as a former police chief, you were in charge of, and was it the Palm Beach County? Tell us your law enforcement history, and then also to the question, how does it make you feel seeing some of the things that are taking place with police brutality?
Yeah, it would take me a long time. I was the chief of police in the city of West Palm Beach, which is the largest municipality in the county. And I was the first of everything. I was the first African-American female officer, period, in 1983. And the first woman rose through the ranks. I was the first female captain, the first female assistant chief, and of course, the first African-American and first female chief of police. But so, saying all that, please understand that I was on a forum not too long ago, and I was kind of disappointed because all I heard was people criticizing the police. And I told them, listen, I bleed red and blue. That is my life. When I think of law enforcement, I think of someone like Nellie, because she reminds me as a young woman in law enforcement. So I think of Nellie. I hate to see every time a human rights violation like this happens, and this is what I consider George Floyd's situation, and all the other high profile cases we've seen in the past years. But I don't all the time think of it as a race issue. And I wish that the race issue happened in 1980 with McDuffie and the riots in Miami. That was a racial riot. These people are protesting now because they are seeing human rights violations. They are demanding change, and that's their constitutional right to march and demand change when they see something like this happen. But please don't always think of it as racist. When you look at the George Floyd situation, there were people of color in there. I saw an Asian man. I saw a man that I don't know what his race is or anything. When you get down in South County where you guys at, you know that Miami-Dade County and Broward is a melting pot. The majority of your law enforcement officers are probably Latino or another immigrant population. So it's not all about race, not all about white versus black. It's about officers that should know better. That was a culture. What happened there for you to kneel on a person's neck in broad daylight and cause his demise, that was something that embedded in the culture. And we have to change that culture of police, that to think that you can do that in broad daylight and get by with it. It's not their first time at the rodeo. They've done that before. So I don't want you don't defund the police, for God's sake. We know that that is an idiotic thing to say, and I don't care who gets offended. Reform the police. And that's why I just served on the board. We have the police academy here, at Palm Beach State College for all of Palm Beach County. And we have discussed reform and training within the academy to focus not on the technical stuff, knowing how to shoot, knowing how to defend yourself, the academics. We want to concentrate on the diversity, sensitivity training, because we can use some of that. I don't care what culture you are from. We need that. Do not defund the police, reform the police. And there's just so much that I want to say, but I want to hear from all the other participants, and I'm learning a lot myself. Still learning.
Well, you are absolutely, as the kids say, dropping knowledge on us today, because this is all about humanity. As we look at the screen today and of those who are participating in this community conversation, it's relationships. Yvette mentioned it earlier. Eduardo mentioned it as well. We're in the relationship business. So as I think about humanity, and thank you, Dr. Bush, for breaking that down. And I'm sure, and in terms of humanity, both you and Nellie are in a male-dominated industry for the most part. And there's some challenges there, I'm sure. So the challenges facing humanity are real. And by the way, folks, we're still in the midst of a global pandemic. So the human rights issues and now the public health issues, we're dealing with the perfect storm here. And as we think about kids going back to school and how we all need to, in the normalcy or whatever that means these days, kids who will most likely be in front of a computer for school. So the social needs we all have as human beings to interact with others. Eduardo, I'll go back to you, my friend. When you think about just tell us about a match, just any match that you all have made where you've just seen just a positive outcome. I want people to understand the power of relationships.
You mean in terms of specifically with Bigs in Blue?
It could be Bigs in Blue, or it could just be any match. It's your call. I don't want to pin you down.
Yeah. I mean, with Bigs in Blue, it's still early to say, because then we have to measure on the academic progress of each kid. And like I said, it's very recent. You can see we have a lot of activities that involve the matches that are in the community base, involving police agents. And you can see how the self-confidence of the kids grow and the type of respect they have for the mentor. In terms of a particular match that I would like to highlight, actually it was highlighted, I think it was in CBS in a church segment a few weeks ago, is a match that we have in the Big Pride program. We also have a program specifically for LGBTQ youth, and we have a trans kid that he is matched with a big brother who is also trans. And it's amazing how that child has flourished at all levels. I mean, and it's become an activist, and even went on to create a fundraiser for us and among a particular group, and then not LGBTQ, another group, and she was able to raise funds for us. And it's amazing how the power of having a mentor can be on a person that you could tell is the one who's more challenged in society, because there is all the stigma that you may associate to the whole thing. This is a new topic that now we're talking about, LGBTQ, which in the past you would not even talk about it, or it was not even well seen to talk about it. So yeah, I mean, that's a great match story that we have right now that was actually highlighted in the news.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Edward. And just again, folks coming together in the space of helping one another. Yvette, as we think about Big Brothers Big Sisters of Palm Beach and Martin counties, the pivot you've had to make as a result of the pandemic, and for those that are listening out there as well, what are some of the adjustments you've had to make, and especially as we talk about, as Dr. Bush said, human rights, social justice, not a moment, but a movement, just really people just dealing with people. What adjustments have you had to make?
Well, the stay-at-home order just changed the way we keep kids connected to their support systems, period. So we did change a lot just in that, starting in March, like we all shifted. So, Palm Beach County is the 10th largest district in the country, along, Miami as well. So we have kids, they're going to virtual school. And then we have our Martin County kids who started already. So we have very different populations just in the areas we serve. And I know that other Big Brothers, Big Sisters are experiencing the same with just accommodating our systems to what everybody's going through. So mentoring is a one-on-one connection. So we had to keep that going. We had to move that forward. We moved everything, our enrollment, our workshops, our internships, our activities, everything went online. The kids are still calling their mentors. They needed somebody to talk to. And so the mentors got really creative and they came up with a lot of ways to keep in touch because they had to step it up. They know those kids needed them. So we even started introducing kids to their mentors all online. So they're just the first time meeting all online, which is really fun. But it's been a big shift. So we also been connecting our mentees and their families to resources so they can stay afloat during this time. So due to the cancellation of our fundraising events, we've had to compensate for the deficit there. And our waiting list is growing. It's not getting smaller. So with all of that going on, we've still taken a look at ourselves, and Big Brothers of America has been great with the task force. And I know, Gail, that you support that as well in giving us resources. Look at yourself, look at your processes. And we've taken that as a team and broken it down. We've had meetings on it. How are we doing? And we're not going to stop. Like you said, this is not one conversation. It's going to keep going after this conversation and for many years. So we've definitely shifted and see some good positive changes coming from it.
And so you heard Eduardo as well as Yvette. For those that are listening, and we thank those that are tuning in, we are still making matches in Miami, in Broward, in Palm Beach, Martin counties. We are not stopping and having incredible big sisters and just human beings, as Dr. Bush and Nellie Joseph that are joining us today. We want to just make sure that everybody recognizes the cost of doing nothing is far too high. Nellie, let's talk about something very quickly. Noble, as we talk about not only Broward and Palm Beach, Martin counties and Miami-Dade County as well, we're excited about the ongoing conversation we have with Noble. Tell us a little bit about Noble and what it's all about.
Well, I joined Noble last year, and I'm actually the South Florida chaplain for Noble. And I think that was one of the greatest decision that I made. They are Noble members are very, very hands-on in the community. For example, for this year, there have been a lot of panels, a lot of talking, a lot of coming together, working on strategies. And even before this year, last year, very, very hands-on in the community with the children. They just recently had a panel with the young people to allow the young people to speak about how do they feel concerning the things that have been happening that they see on the news with the police officers. And it was great to hear some of the young people saying that they're kind of torn because they interact with police officers in their community and it's great interaction, but when they look on the news, the perception is different. And so Noble just gave the students some time to really talk about their feelings. The organization does a lot of community service, a lot of engagement. And our chapter president is Assistant Director Stephanie Daniels. Very hands-on. She actually has been mentoring us younger officers here in Miami Gardens. We were meeting once every Thursday a month, just pouring in, talking about leadership, talking about taking the next step for the future. And so the organization is a great organization. It's really hands-on. It's an international organization where they interact and do a lot in the community. And for me as a young officer, it's great to partner with those that have been doing it for 20, 30 years. And they don't make you feel like you don't know, you're not important. They're really open to pouring in more knowledge, just pushing us to take exams, better yourself. So matter of fact, I see this organization as a great way to mentor, because I feel like I'm being mentored in the organization, because I'm just watching how they move, and it's just encouraging me to better myself as a mother, as a police officer, just as someone that's in a community that loves her community. Just I watch the things that they have done and what they're continually doing, and so I'm definitely learning and growing. So it's a great organization to come in. It's hands-on again, a lot of mentorship. They push you, no excuses. You can do it. Let's better our community. Let's be better examples for our children and the people of the world.
Well, Nelly, I need you to bring more energy the next time you're on my show, okay? Please bring a little bit more energy, Dr. Bush. I don't know. I mean, she's over. But now, just for the benefit of the audience, I'm going to you, Dr. Bush, next. What does NOBLE, N-O-B-L-E, stand for? Just so everybody knows.
Can I take that? That's the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and I've been involved in NOBLE for a very long time, and it has evolved. I can recall, I mean, you know, I know about the founding and everything, but we were kind of, in the beginning, we were seeing like, where's the National Association of Chiefs of Police and all that was, you know, that was good. But if you were a member of NOBLE, and this is how racism does come in, you were seen as, you know, like, okay, you're a part of this nefarious organization. That was what it started out as. If, you know, it shouldn't be a Black law enforcement executives forum. No, it shouldn't be. It should be all. But we had to fight that injustice over the years. And the people that you see that are leading you in NOBLE, I was a former sector president, and I would be in Miami for your meetings as well for Palm Beach County, Martin, and all the other areas north. So I had to give that up when I became chief of police because my schedule wouldn't allow. But I am so glad that NOBLE is involved in developing the youth, because how does it go? Train the child in the way that they should go.
And when they're old,
they won't depart, right?
There it is.
So we got this. So I'm just so glad you just and continue those programs as you are in NOBLE, and I can still have a voice, and I'm going to try and get back involved, but ensure that you keep those programs going, like, you know, like the Explorers and all that stuff. When you have those kids, she can tell you a little bit about what that is, but that is when you take those kids when they're young and you teach them the culture of law enforcement. And when they are graduate, they go to college. And those are the people, when we want to recruit Black officers, that's your pool of recruiters that you're seeing that being trained by NOBLE, that's involved in Explorer because they know the culture. And that's how I recruited a lot of our officers at West Palm. I trained them from babies and grew them up, sent them to the academy, and they become law enforcement officers. And we have that diversity that we so badly need in law enforcement today. So continue your good job in NOBLE. I appreciate that, Chaplain.
Well, I love what you just shared there. Edward, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I what Ms. Bush is saying is so important. And I come from, in Big Brothers Big Sisters, I come from case management, and I started interviewing children and parents and volunteers, etc., and parents as well. So it's very interesting because when you interview the kids and you ask them, you know, what do you want to become in the future, there is a very large percentage. They will tell you, I want to become a police officer. I want to become anything in law enforcement. And then as years go by, that starts to divert into other role models like, oh no, I want to become a professional athlete. I mean, when you interview the adolescents, they're going into another realm that the role models are the athletes, are people in the entertainment business, people that are successful African. I'm talking always in regards to the African American community. So that's what they aspire to. And then I think, what about the 7-year-old who used to say, I want to become a police officer? So that's I find that it's very extremely important, I think, to capitalize on that initial inclination and to really move the kid along that road and that track so that he can finally become a member of law enforcement. I want to make a parenthesis here to also highlight in Big Brothers Big Sisters of Broward, we have a member of Noble, which is Lieutenant Selena Hightower, who's a wonderful big sister. And in addition to that, she's just a great motor of getting things done in terms of our program in the Hollywood Police Department. So kudos to her. I assume that she's listening somewhere.
She's somewhere. You can best believe that. And speaking of energy, imagine having Nellie and Selena Hightower in the same meeting. We need a stadium for that energy, Eduardo. So thank you for sharing that. We got about 2 minutes left before I got to go to my 1 o'clock guest. But I want to just say this to everybody that's listening out there. What you see in this meeting, and if you're looking at this on your phone or your computer, you see humanity. You see humanity. We have 2 incredible law enforcement professionals that have dedicated their lives to protecting and serving. It breaks my heart when I see, there was a recent incident on one side of the street, Black Lives Matter, on the other side of the street, Blue Lives Matter. No, we all, human beings, matter. We recognize the urgency and intentionality as it relates to some racial tensions. But if we treat everybody like human beings, we're all going to be better as a result of that. We can have differences of opinion, but one thing that should never be in question is respecting everybody that you meet, treating everybody that you meet like a human being. Our kids are watching. And in Miami-Dade County, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, we had Broward County, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Martin and Palm Beach counties. We stand together for humanity. And all across the state of Florida, all across this nation, on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, we stand with law enforcement. We appreciate what you do. And whether it's Bigs and Blue or all of our other beautiful programs, these kids are counting on us. So Dr. Bush and Nellie, you got 30 seconds each on what gives you hope. What gives you hope as we move forward and close out this incredible, I could talk to you all. Let's just do this next Friday. How about it, everybody? I'll call you. I'll have my people call you. We're going to do this next Friday. You guys are incredible. So 30 seconds, what gives you hope? Let's start with you, Nellie.
Love gives me hope. The love for my community, the love for people, the love for our young people. I know that as long as I keep loving, I always have hope. I always have that drive for the future, and that's what gives me hope, love.
Thank you. Dr. Bush.
You know, what we're talking about right now, this thing, the youth give me hope. I mean, children gives me hope. When I see a child is so, and they are so, they're not in the woods like we are. They're not as negative as we are. They tell you the truth. They make you laugh. I think of my 7-year-old grandson who just busted his mom on Zoom because she didn't have on the lower part, you know.
It's a family show, Auntie. Family show. Now close this out. I told you 30 seconds. Now you're talking about, oh my goodness. Let me make sure.
She was dressed, but just not appropriate as the office. But it was so, I laughed. It took me a week to stop laughing about it. And she was in tears the whole time. And so I finally had to apologize to her yesterday. But 7-year-old children that speak their mind are the youth gives me hope. They are our future all day long. So that is it. Glad I made you guys laugh.
You made us laugh. You did a good job today, Auntie. Nellie, thank you. Dr. Bush, thank you. Yvette, sister, thank you. Eduardo, brother, thank you. Let's keep making these matches throughout the world so that this world can be a better place. I appreciate you all taking the time out on this beautiful Friday in South Florida. All the best to each and every one of you. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, folks, as our guests depart, it just gets better today. Whether you take the early lunch or the late lunch, thanks for joining me. I'm Gail Nelson, President, CEO of Big Brothers, Big Sisters Miami. What an incredible conversation. I don't know if you have the chat capability or whatever, but just share some love. Just go to the chat right now and just share some love on what gives you hope. Because guess what? When it comes to humanity, we're going to bring in our next guests from the Israeli Consulate here in Miami. We're going to let them come in right now. Stand by. We're going to let them come on in and we will get this thing rolling. Here they come. Hello, Casa. How are you?
Hi.
Good to see you. Ariel, how are you? You can take the mask off for the show, Ariel. No mask needed for my
How
show.
are you, my friend? Thanks for hosting.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my
Hello
absolute
to everyone.
pleasure.
Shabbat shalom.
And so now, Casa, thank you for joining us today. And I want to make sure I get your all the accolades and the titles right. Now, first of all, hold me accountable for pronouncing the name. Casa Bainse Harbor. How'd I do?
Correct. Great.
You came to Miami in March of 2019. You assumed the role of as Deputy Consul General at the Israeli Consulate here in Miami. You served as the previous Deputy Head of Mission at the Israeli Embassy in Wellington, New Zealand. Before being assigned to New Zealand, you served as Deputy Head of Mission at the Israeli Embassy in Yangon, Myanmar, excuse me. You hold an MA from Tel Aviv University in the field of public policy and a BA from Hebrew University in the field of international relations and education. You're fluent in Aramaic, Hebrew, and English. But now I got something for you in terms of language. Casa with a C in Miami means home. Mi casa, su casa. But now Casa with a K. Break that. And kids are always welcome on the show. That's the beauty of live TV. And so I love the hat as well. What's the little guy's name back there?
His name is Ivry. It's my little son, and he's a big son, and he's with me at work today.
That's excellent. No worries at all. We get it. This is what the new normal.
Yes, it is the new normal.
But Casa, tell us a little bit about you. I want to start with your name because when we first met, we talked about Casa and your origin and all of that. So tell us a little bit about your personal journey and a little bit about the consulate, Israeli consulate here in Miami.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me, Gail. I'm really happy to be here with you today, and we appreciate our cooperation working together. So a little bit about me and my background. I'm an Ethiopian Jew, also known as the Falasha. I was born in Ethiopia and I moved to Israel when I was 10 years old. And yeah, so we are one of those, the people of Israel is, we are 12 tribes. So we are one of the lost tribes that was founded after many years. While we thought in Ethiopia, the Beta Israel, we call ourselves Beta Israel. Beta, it's a house, Bait, and Israel, it's a house of Israel, part of the people of Israel. We thought that we are the only people that left after the destruction of the first and the second temple. And it was when we moved to Israel, it was kind of a surprise for us also to see white Jewish. So it was it was a really a learning opportunity. So I moved to Israel when I was 10 years old, like I said, and my first schooling was actually in Israel. So the first time that I learned to read and write was at the age of 10 in Israel. So yeah, and then I learned, I did all my in Israel, and I became a diplomat, and I'm here at the Israeli Consulate representing the state of Israel.
And so the Israeli consulate here in Miami, tell us, again, the role and some of the things that you do there.
So what we do here mainly, since in every country there's the embassy, our embassy is in DC. The consulate job, it's not only helping the embassy, but also to build bridges and to promote both Israel and Florida's economy, and help with education, universities cooperation, science corporations, technology, high-tech cooperation. Israel known as the startup nation. So we bringing Israelis technology for the solution of some challenges that Florida has. For during this COVID-19, what we did here at the Israeli consulate is to show how Israeli startup and Israeli technologies can help during this times, how technology can help in medical technology while people are at home, but still to continue their medical procedures as much as possible because some people were just afraid to go to the hospitals. So there are so many Israeli technologies and companies that already are working here because we introduced it to Florida. So Israeli consulate is in charge of not only in Florida, but also Mississippi, Alabama, and Puerto Rico. So the other things that we're doing is, bringing agricultural technologies. Israel known for agri-tech. So bringing so basically what we bringing the know-how, the technology, and also cooperation between universities, signing MOU, cooperate between scientists. So that's what we do, and we open a direct flight from Miami to Israel. So to make it better, so El Al, the Israeli national flight company, opened the station here in Miami, and there is a direct flight between Tel Aviv and Miami. It's a win-win situation, so it's great. Israel, Florida, or Israel and America relation based on shared values of democracy, values of freedom and human rights. That's the foundation of friendship, is on values. So going out from there, we build other bridges of many other things that how Israel can help United States, and specifically to Florida, with the knowledge and experience that we have.
I love that when you talk about value. Now, don't you move too much. When you move one way, I lose your volume a little bit. So you stay right there in the middle for me, if you don't mind. Now, let me just say this. Right now in our country, as we deal with the racial tensions, as we deal with social justice, as we deal with basic human rights, our last guest, former chief of the Palm Beach County Police Department, if you will, the police department up in West Palm Beach, she mentioned that some things are about race, some things are just about basic humanity. But oftentimes, even most recently with some Black athletes making some anti-Semitic remarks. And here you are, Ethiopian Jew, one of my board members, shout out to Natalie Norfus, her mom's Jewish and her father's Black. And so it's so important that we talk about this. It makes people uncomfortable, Casa, but we got to talk about it. And the purpose of these community conversations is to keep the dialogue going so we can all be better. How are you feeling right now as you see the racial tensions, including some anti-Semitic remarks taking place in our country?
I think the one word that you used, and it's very good, is the dialogue. Okay, I think that many, in general, when we talk about racism or prejudice, the nature of a human being is to be afraid of something that it doesn't know. Okay, so when you're afraid of something that you don't know, you have kind of conspiracy or prejudice theories that that's going on in people's mind. I would say that the dialogue and the education is the most important thing. When you educate, and people are more, most of the people don't know about Israel that much, but they hear whatever they see in the media, and that's what the imaginations is going on about Israel. But I don't know about my community and the history of the Ethiopian Jews, or the history of the Jewish people in general, and Israel, it's the birthplace of the Jewish people. So I think the dialogue and the education, it's very, very important. And it comes to that, if we don't, for example, if you take little kids, okay, different color, different background, different ethnicity, different religion, you take those kids and you put them in the kindergarten, they will play together.
Yes.
They will play together, and they will, form friendship, and that will move, go take them when they grow up in this kind of things. But what happened when they grow up? And if there is no interaction between people, you don't know. Exactly. So this is, I think, the most, like I said, the most important thing is it's the interaction, the dialogue, and the education. That's the basic. Here as Israeli diplomats, we build bridges. So I think it's part of our job, and every educator, it has to build bridges, okay, between people and between different ethnicity and between different faiths, okay.
And as we think about building bridges, Casa, we're gonna bring someone in that from the Israeli consulate here in Miami. Just happened to stop by, and I want to make sure I'll let her come in first. We want to pronounce the name appropriately, and so hold on there a second. Galit, can you hear me? Is that the correct pronunciation, Casa?
Yes,
Yes,
Galit.
hi.
All right. So now you don't have video, and that's fine. I know you're just
Oh,
here to kind of listen in, but I just wanted to welcome you to the show.
I'm supposed to have video. Sorry, I don't know why I
Oh,
don't.
okay. Well, let's see here. I don't know if I can't start your. There you go. Now you
Okay.
got video. Absolutely.
Okay, now I can. Oh, okay. Now
Okay.
everybody can see everybody. Yeah.
Everybody can see you. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, just as a means of intro.
So I just came to Miami last week as an interim consul general. I am a diplomat for the last 22 years, representing Israel. I was in Morocco. I was in the Balkans and in Serbia. I was in the Israeli mission to the European Union. And in the last 4 years, I had the pleasure to serve Israel in New York. And just before this virus attacked all of us, I went back to Israel. And the truth is that before, when I was in New York, I visited several times Miami, and I enjoyed it very much. And now it was a little bit sad to see the empty streets and no tourists. But I think that Miami or Florida people are very resilient, so I'm sure you'll get out of it stronger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So welcome to our community conversation. And as we continue, we just, again, meeting Ariel and talking with Casa. And so I have not met anyone from the Israeli consulate here in Miami that I just didn't immediately just fall in love with, because you all are such caring, giving people. And as we talk about humanity today, I want to spend a little bit of time on diplomacy. We're talking about some of the challenges facing the world, and certainly facing the United States, inclusive of the United States, obviously, but with the global pandemic, but also as we deal with, sadly, systemic racism, as we deal sadly with human rights violations as well. One of the things I'm excited about is just the opportunity to teach our children about diplomacy. And Casa, we talked about that. And I want both of you to answer this question from your vantage point. What is diplomacy? What is diplomacy for the benefit of the kids who may be listening, the big brothers or the big sisters who may be listening? What is diplomacy at its core? Casa, we'll start with you.
Diplomacy at its core is diplomacy. Like I said, diplomacy is building bridges. So what's diplomacy skills that you have? You bring people together in different background, different, like I said, different ethnicity, in our case, different nations. But also it helps you to the opportunity to learn from other groups or other people's background, and also to build those bridges and to cooperate. Now the world is very easy. You don't have to be a diplomat to interact with other people or with different cultures. You have, you travel. Just because you travel, you are a diplomat by yourself for your own country. Just by backpacking in Asia or in South America, people asking you, who are you? Where are you from? Tell me about your country. What's special about that? Teaching about your country or telling people about your country, it's a diplomacy itself. Now, we as a diplomat, we're dealing with not only with the politicians, elected officials, but also with the people to people. And that's the bridge that we are building. And that's why also we're so lucky and we're so happy to work with you, with Big Brother and Big Sisters, because we want to connect to people. We bring in people to know about each other, to learn about each other, then to reveal the fear that people may have just in general from unknown. So this is our job as a diplomat here in Miami, to connect between cultures, different backgrounds. And the more we learn about each other, the more bridges that we build, the more great future that we are creating for our own people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We look forward to the diplomacy workshops with our littles as well. We're so excited about teaming up with the Israeli consulate here in Miami and having diplomacy workshops, teaching our kids. We call them littles, Galit. Did I pronounce your name properly? Is it Galit, or say your name?
No, You're pronouncing it perfectly.
Oh my goodness. See how I do my hand? I don't know why I do my hand that way when I say Galit, but it just feels right.
The meaning of my name is like a wave at sea. So it fits perfectly in Miami.
It does. So we're right at home with Casa, mi casa, su casa, and we're just flowing along with Galit.
We're riding the wave.
We're
Right.
just riding the wave. Now, sometimes speaking of waves, it can get a little bumpy with human relations as well. Let's just talk a little bit with a few minutes we have remaining as we talk about just racism. Galit, have you ever experienced any form, and it's Casa, same question to you, any form of racism? How'd you deal with it?
I experienced racism actually, I was really surprised because the first time it happened to me here in the States, but I don't think people knew that I was Jewish, but they were saying something about the Jews. And I was a little shocked because you hear about it all the time. You talk about it all the time. When you experience it, it's different. But lucky enough, I think that, Casa and I, we discussed it, this issue, and we talked about the fact that racism, in many cases, it comes from ignorance. And because, when you call someone for what he is, for me, when somebody calls me a Jew, it's not a bad thing for me. I'm very proud of it. The other person probably doesn't know what it means to be Jew, and that's why he thinks that it might hurt me if he calls me that way. So I think I will let Casa more elaborate about that, but I think that the main answer to any sort of racism should be education, and it's connecting also to what you previously talked about, diplomacy. I think the very important characteristic for diplomats should be curiosity. And when you are curious and you learn about other cultures, about other people, then you are much less hater, because you're getting to know other people that are not exactly like you. And then you don't practice hate because you're much more knowledgeable.
Absolutely. That's smooth sailing right there. I got to keep working this wave and this sea with your name. I mean, no doubt about it. If you're curious and you're interested, you're willing to learn. And if you're willing to learn, that you're less likely to hate. Casa, tell us about a time you've experienced racism. How'd you
Well,
deal with it?
um, I think like you said, the
Your
curiosity
audio,
and
Casa, come a little closer.
yeah. So like Galit said, the curiosity and learning more, it will help people. So I think experience was here in the state about 10 years ago. I was going, just to a bar. I went there to meet friends, and I was just by myself. And the person in the door wouldn't let me in. So I said, "Why are you not letting me in?" He said, "No, it's only for invited people." And my friends were waiting on the other side. So I said, I have the Israeli way we call it chutzpah in a good way, the kind of like, I'm challenging the person who's telling me that. I said, I want to speak with your manager, bring in your manager, and I want to know from him, it's private. And then to make a long story short, eventually they let me in. But also when someone facing those kind of things, you have to stand up for yourself and to challenge, not to accept things as it is. So once you've been challenged and you're not accepting things the way it is, you educating them. I think not only to just to go away. And I stood there and I said, I'm not accepting this. I want to talk with your manager right now. Call your manager right now. And he brought his manager. And I told him, why are you saying that? It's not just for invited people. So I was there to challenge them. I kind of like to ask questions, not just to take things that it is. That is one of the most important thing. By when you ask questions, also you challenge the other side, and they have to give you answers. And when they're asking you, you give them the answer, and that's the kind of dialogue that you are creating and learning from each other, and to and solve this kind of things. It has to be that way. It has to be, by dialogue and education, and also bringing people together and learning from each other again.
Absolutely. Curiosity, education. But now I just have to ask, so when we prejudge, as we get into prejudice, obviously, so what made the person think you were not an invited guest? I mean, it wasn't a matter of take it or it is, I mean, was it just simply the color of your skin?
Yes, totally. Because my friends, they were white, and they let them in, and me, they asking me questions. Definitely, and it shows the ignorance of the other side. Who they know who they had no idea who I am. And for example, I go on international conferences. They will never know that I'm an Israeli diplomat. They assume from my, just from my color, that I'm something else. And then when I open my map and I introduce myself an Israeli diplomat, they're shocked. They said, seriously, are you an Israeli diplomat? Are there Black Jews in Israel? It's those kind of things. It's just show the ignorance of the other side. But this is also an opportunity for me to educate them. So now that they know that I'm an Israeli diplomat and I'm a Jew and I'm Black and a Black and Jew, and they learn that they can go back home and they educate their own, inner circle that will go to the outside circle, and that's how you like you're dropping a stone in the water. The big circles they're making. That's exactly what we do, just by picking up.
Absolutely. And that's that ripple effect you just described as well. And we stay in the water. We went from the sea to the ripple effect. So you guys are a very easy interview for me, by the way. But pun intended. But when we think about our children and the partnership between the Israeli consulate, here in Miami, and Big Brothers, Big Sisters, we're fortunate to have you all here because we have the opportunity to eradicate ignorance, to promote education, and to, quite frankly, train the next generation of diplomats. Why is that so important? That's a question for both of you before we close out. Why is that so important? Whoever wants to take it first, why is it so important to train the next generation of diplomats?
I can take the first one. I apologize because I have to leave very soon, so I'll
Okay.
just give you the answer. First of all, I want to tell you that you're doing an amazing job, your organization. I met the representatives also in New York, and I was really, really impressed by your activity. It's amazing. So congratulations to you. Why is it important to create diplomats? I think that I repeat myself a little bit because I think every kid is curious, and the more you're curious about not only about yourself but about other people, you can learn and flourish and enrich yourself. And the more you're knowledgeable, the less you're suspicious towards other people, other cultures, other behaviors. And I think that diplomacy used to be between kings, between presidents. Today, diplomacy is also to the level of the people to the people. I'm sure that CASA here and the consulate before I came here organized events about Israeli food, Israeli music, Israeli, films. And each one of us has his own culture and very much want to share. The more the kids the little ones, that you call them the littles, they will be more curious, ask more questions, and get more answers, which is it's important to ask questions, but also it's important that the ones who are not little anymore will give good answers and encourage their curiosity. You will raise better people, better in the sense of better human beings. And I think that we all want to live in a world with better human beings.
Beautiful. Thank you,
Right.
Galit, for
Thank
stopping by. It's a pleasure meeting you. And I look forward to an ongoing relationship with an incredible Israeli consulate here in Miami. Thank you.
Of course. So excuse me, I have to run because I'm staying. Bye.
Bye.
Sorry.
So Casa, right back at you in terms of the training this next generation of diplomats and really helping these young people just get it and be more responsive to some of the things that are eradicating our nation. So what are your thoughts, Casa?
Well, like my colleague Galit said, diplomacy is an art of bringing people together. I think when kids or young people learn diplomacy, they are building bridges between themselves, between their communities, but also they building a community and they're building the foundation for tolerance. Now, the whole world is looking up to America. Okay, everyone wants to learn more about the America. The more the American um, young people learn about diplomacy and how to build bridges, the more they connect with the other kids in other worlds, in other countries. And this is so important because the international language in the world is English. And for them, when they grow up, when they learn the skills, when they go outside to they grow up and they become, whatever profession they do, they have this opportunity, those skills that they have, and to work internationally. Now, America is a very diverse country, and specifically Florida, and specifically Miami, and people are coming from all over the world. And how you build those bridges from other people. And I think Miami is a great place to learn and to gain the skills of diplomacy because you have different people that speaking different languages and coming from a different background. Miami is a great place to practice diplomacy. And they're bringing, it's all good for them and good for their future, whatever profession they choose to do. They make them international people. And beside the fact that, they give them skills of bringing people together in different communities. So I think it's the art of diplomacy, giving you the opportunity to build bridges between communities, but also to build a foundation of tolerance.
I love it. Well, all I can say is thank you. The time we have spent today, thank you for taking time out. And so right on schedule, There's the big guy again.
Yeah.
Just again, put him on camera. Let's close. The next 30 seconds, put him on camera. This is what gives us hope. And so he's like, I'm not ready for prime time. He's gone behind the flags now. But at the end of the day, what gives us hope for our children and our future? We're in this for them. And Casa, I mean it sincerely. Mi casa, su casa. Our home is your home. And just thank you, Ariel. Thank you. We are so excited about this new partnership with the Israeli Consulate as we celebrate humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Stay safe.
Take care.
Amen. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Anytime. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, it just keeps getting better. We've gone from our law enforcement partners with our sister affiliates in Broward, as well as Palm Beach and Martin counties. We're one organization in a lot of different locations. Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America has 237 affiliates nationwide, and even some international affiliates. So as we think about humanity today, and thanks for hanging with me today as well, we're going to bring in one of our corporate partners, and he's a great guy. Let me go ahead and admit him right now for our final interview of the day, our final conversation of the day, and we are right on time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's my buddy, Daniel. Daniel, I think you're still connecting audio. I'll give it a few seconds to go ahead and get situated there. I see the check mark. Daniel, welcome to our conversation today, my friend.
Hello, Gail. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Looks like the weather's beautiful in downtown Miami, as I can see over your shoulder.
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing good weather to the show. I appreciate that so very much. Now, Daniel, I'm going to take a shot at your full name. Now, I want you to keep me honest now. I've been practicing this all morning. Daniel D. Untitled. Talk to me.
Wow, impressive, Gail. Yeah.
It just took me.
And it's not common that he's pronounced that well.
Well, I tell you what, it's a pleasure, and it's not very common for someone to do what you've done. And I'm going to jump right in out of respect for your time, my friend. You called our office. You had your assistant call our office, and you wanted to speak to me. I'm just giving everybody a little context. This was in the midst of a global pandemic where we as an organization had to pivot from a business standpoint. We wanted to make sure our current bigs and littles were taken care of and our families. And in the midst of a pandemic, we did not expect so soon. This was probably, I want to say it was April that you reached out. I mean, here we are, with the global spike in COVID-19 cases, and you said, we want to learn more about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And I commend you for that. I commend you for your leadership at Insigneo, and just for the benefit of our audience today. Insigneo became a brand new school to work partner in the midst of a pandemic, the first corporation to step up, the first company to step up and become workplace mentoring partner. What does that mean? Daniel and his team are bigs. They meet their littles virtually. And when it's safe to do so, those littles that are all high school age will then visit the company on a monthly basis. So that's a long intro, a long thank you. But Daniel, I must just take time out to just commend you for your leadership and support.
Thank you, Gail.
Why was it so important to reach out to us, Daniel? Let's jump right in. Why was it so important to get involved with Big Brothers, Big Sisters Miami?
Yes, so obviously we know about your organization and the work that you guys have done, and Insigneo has always been involved in social activities and charities and the like, but most of the time we were doing it in Latin America. We're a Miami-based company, but our clients and many of our offices and whatnot are in south of the border, like they say. And we have been discussing for a while picking the right local entity, Miami-based group, to do some work at the management team level and hopefully invite employees and financial advisors and others to join. So what better time than the Zoom era when probably the challenges of being a high school kid, which was used to seeing his or her friends every day at class and having a normal life became as disrupted as your life and my life. So that's the best explanation that I can give you of why the timing.
Well, I tell you what, the timing could not have been better for us. And as we think about mentoring, as we think about corporate social responsibility, a term we've heard a lot. And Daniel, we're dealing with a lot in our nation right now. We turn on the TV, we certainly understand the public health challenges with COVID, but we also cannot escape the inevitable reality of race relations and getting along with people that come from different backgrounds and treating everybody with respect. From a corporate social responsibility standpoint, what is the responsibility of business in dealing with racial tensions?
Yes, I think you again, you're a member of the community. So as every member of the community, you have the responsibility to step up and do what you feel is best to improve those racial tensions, those social problems that are not going to be solved unless we all do our best to solve them. So to me, the terms corporate responsibility or social responsibility of a corporation, it's something that it just comes with the title. You run a business, that business operates in a community, that community has needs, and you need to focus on those needs and try to do your part to help, either through a program like yours or getting associated with a program like yours, or by doing what is right for diversity, which we put a lot of focus on in our company, and for other causes that may help mend these deep running scars that society have and that I think flare up in moments like this.
Absolutely. Just while we're there, when you talk about Insigneo, tell us a little bit, give us a quick commercial on Insigneo and what you all do.
I love to do that, as you know. So we're a wealth management firm. What that means is that we manage the investments generally of affluent or wealthy investors. Most of our clients are Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking clients. Miami has always been a base for that. We're the largest independent broker dealer. So obviously there are others that are more bigger, but tend to be part of a bank or another institution. We have around 60 employees and service another 40 advisors here in Miami. So we touch the lives of around 100 people as a corporation, and over 10,000 clients, many of them in Latin America, but many of them here in the South Florida area. So that's a very brief commercial of Insigneo. And we're very good at it, by the way.
Well, I tell you what, you're very good at that commercial. We talked about in an earlier conversation. I don't know how long you've been able to tune in, but we had some law enforcement personnel on, a former police chief and a current big sister through our Bigs in Blue program, working with law enforcement. And they talked about teaching kids the elevator pitch, because you never know who will ask you, give us a quick commercial. And you did that in 30 seconds or less. So I can assume that's not the first time you've done that, my friend.
And funny enough, it was shown to me by a mentor of mine, not from Big Brother, Big Sisters, but someone that was important in my life, told me once, you have to be ready, because you never know when you're going to meet the person that may, give you a job, or that may be your next father-in-law. Or I have met that person now for a while, and I love that person. But it's kind of, you have to be ready in life to talk about who you are. And again, one of those things that you remember forever, and came from someone that took some time in my life when I was very young.
And what's powerful about that, a mentor is a trusted friend and counsel. We recognize in the world of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, we're the first responders in relationship business. And so we have to be ready. When you called me, when your team called my office, and then of course, word got back to me that, okay, Insigneo is calling, the CEO wants to talk to you. I'm like, okay. I hadn't heard of Insigneo. And so I had to do my thing on Zoom. Typically I put on my suit and I'll come to your office and do whatever I need to do, or maybe it's a phone call. But I had one shot as a first impression with you and your team. And if I had messed that up, I don't think we'd be here right now, Daniel.
Absolutely. And you were very convincing. And obviously the way you explained what you guys were doing and how you were influencing lives was a big part of the decision to join this fantastic organization.
Well, we're privileged to team up with Insigneo. Let's get personal for just a minute. As we talk about social justice, as we talk about racial tensions that are taking place all around us, the unavoidable reality, you either are for humanity or you're going to stay kind of closed-minded. There's no in between. There really isn't. Have you experienced any form of racism, Daniel? And if so, tell us about it.
Well, I'm the son of immigrants. My dad and my mom, who rest in peace, are from Spain. And when I was 10 years old, they moved me to Puerto Rico, which is nearby, a very nice island in the Caribbean. But you get there as a 10-year-old and you speak differently. You if I have an accent now, imagine the accent that I had back there. And I was what in Spanish you will say the Españolito, the little Spaniard. No one called me on my name; they called me Españolito, and I think that that's the feeling of experimenting that racism, feeling that you're different because you come from a different place, that you have to play with a different group of kids because not all the kids will accept you, that certain opportunities maybe are not there for you just because you happen to be from somewhere else. So that was kind of the first experience, and obviously back in the day probably I didn't solve that one the right way. I got into many scuffles and arguments and other ways, but it allowed me to understand what you feel when you're on that side, and definitely it's not a fun thing. And then when I moved to the U.S. after college in Puerto Rico, it was kind of a repetition. I was older. I was in my 20s. My English was pretty broken because Puerto Rico is a Spanish-speaking country, and you will see many occasions where people will either stereotype you or just put you on the side. And believe me, the feeling is nothing fun. And I think that the more we do to stop it and to work on it so that it continues to improve until one day it finally goes away and we realize that we're all equal, it will not go away by itself. That's what I think.
And thank you for that statement. It will not go away by itself. One of our key takeaways from today's conversation, it will not go away by itself. Avoiding a problem or looking the other way does not solve it. And through partnerships like we have with Insigneo and Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Miami, we are bringing kids together. And you got an incredible team, Daniel. We had the Zoom meeting and we did the recruitment. I mean, the smiling faces, the energy. Can I do this with my little? Can I do that with my little? And we know we're limited right now due to the pandemic, but I really look forward to allowing these kids who come from various ethnic backgrounds with your diverse team really working together. And I know we're getting to know one another, and there's challenges because these kids are like, the screen time is probably like 100,000% more than what they normally have done other than their phones. But with school online and now with the school to work program being online, I'm really excited about what you just said. It won't go.
I'll tell you an anecdote that I think you find interesting. Every meeting that we have had, more kids turn on their camera. The first meeting was all just dark screens. They will speak, but they will not show us their smiley faces. But it's been improving, and we know as a team that even though it's a little awkward at times because you're not in person, which continues to be important. We know that it's going to continue to improve it, and at some point we're going to be able to get together.
Absolutely. And certainly I want to do a shout out to the incredible Big Brothers Big Sisters team that made your matches, that continue to work with you and your team and are addressing challenges as they come, because there will be challenges in any relationship, such as life, Daniel. There will be challenges, as well, but you all are investing your time to really help change the trajectory and ignite the power and potential of these kids. And so I thank you there. But you know what? This is like a love fest because not only did you reach out, not only did we set up a new school to work workplace mentoring program for Insigneo, and that's a challenge to all companies in Miami. Follow Insigneo's lead and get involved. But you also made an investment. And so welcome to the Dreammaker family. At the most appropriate time, we're going to have a little ceremony and the name's going on the wall here in our building. So on behalf of the kids that we serve here in Miami, during some challenging times, I wanted to publicly thank you and the Insigneo team for your investment in igniting the power and promise of our youth.
Thank you, and thank you to the Big Brothers and Big Sisters team, because your professionalism throughout this very difficult and different time have been just fantastic. So thank you for taking us to where we are.
Let me ask you this, Daniel. We've got a few minutes remaining, and I really appreciate you taking time. I know you had a crazy busy day today, so thanks for fitting me in a little bit of your day. What advice would you give to companies who are looking to invest their time and their resources in the cause of mentoring? What advice would you give them based on your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's get rid of the excuses. You're always thinking that you're too busy or that you're doing enough by just writing a check, which again it's great, but that requires little effort. The real effort is on getting involved, motivating people. I did this voluntarily with my management team. We have around 15 people in our management team, and we say, okay, who wants to join? I think 10 of the 15 joined. The other 5 are because they either were involved in other organizations or they just have no time really on their lives to do so. But really, make this part of what you are as a corporation. Don't just think that this is for whenever you have the time or whenever or that just by donating funds you're doing all it takes. I mean, keep donating obviously and keep the funds coming, but get involved personally, because that's where the hard work comes, and that's where your employees and especially the new people in the company are going to look up and they're going to say, well, this is a place that I like to belong, because they go beyond just saying something nice. They go out and they do something that they feel is right.
What I love about that, and research shows, to your point, that mentoring is a good retention strategy. Corporate social responsibility is a good employee retention strategy. When you as a CEO of a company show that leadership by example, and you allow your team to get involved and your colleagues to get involved in something that really makes them feel good while at work, school to work, again, for the benefit of our audience, your company can get involved. Sign up to become a big, get your company involved as a team. You can mentor a group of students. Everything's done online right now. We're still making matches here in Miami and across this nation through Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So definitely get involved. Daniel, before I let you go for the weekend, not saying you got to leave work, but I will be signing off here in just a minute. What gives you hope? I've asked every guest this, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that the only way forward is together. As we think about the future, as we think about some of the challenges we all face from a public health standpoint, as well as dealing with race relations, what gives you hope for the future, Daniel?
Listen, Gail, I'm an optimist, and I feel that no matter what you think, things are improving. We're better off than we were 20 years ago, and we're worse off than we will be 10 or 20 years ago. And what will make a difference on the speed or how we improve as a society and especially as a community, which to me it's a concept that Big Brother Big Sisters is all about working with your community, not your family, not your city, but your community. I think that the more you get involved in that, the faster that change and that improvement is going to come. And I'm hopeful about that. I'm optimistic about that. All we can do is try to touch the people that are close to us to get them to, snap out of their inaction and take some actions to make things better. And that's what we're trying to do here at Insigneo, Gail. And that gives me a lot of hope.
Well, you all have certainly given us renewed reason to be hopeful, because corporate social responsibility is alive and well in Miami. And with companies like Insigneo doing their part, everybody can do something because the cost of doing nothing is far too high. Daniel, thank you for taking time out today. Spend a little time with me. I will certainly be in touch with you as we continue to grow our incredible new partnership.
Great seeing you, Gail, and good weekend to you and the Big Brother Big Sisters team.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, an incredible group of folks today that were interviewed, from Yvette and Eduardo from Big Brothers Big Sisters Martin and Palm Beach counties and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Broward respectively. Dr. Bush, a retired police chief. We had Nellie Joseph, one of our big sisters with the Miami Gardens Police Department. Shout out to Big Sister and Chief Delma Noel Pratt, as well. We had the Israeli Consulate talk to us about diplomacy, breaking news. Diplomacy workshops coming for our littles, here in Miami as well, teaching them how to negotiate, how to reason, to learn, to lean in with curiosity in efforts to form relationships. I love that piece that the Consul General had to mention earlier. She said diplomacy was about kings. Think about that. Heads of state. So if it's good enough for royalty, it's certainly good enough for our incredible future kings and queens, as we call little brothers and little sisters. Got to teach our kids now. So as you head into this weekend, think about how you can share the love. As you head into this weekend, think about how diplomatic you may be. Not contentious, argumentative, but diplomacy reigns supreme. Keywords today: love, diplomacy, investment of time and resources. That's a wrap for today's community conversation. We'll see you in September. Every month, the communication, the conversation goes on, because this is not a moment, it's a movement. And a movement becomes a lifestyle. And when it becomes a lifestyle, you don't have to work too hard to do it. All the best to you for the weekend. Gail Nelson, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Miami, signing off for today. Have a great weekend, everybody.